Hi, my name is Jen Dool. I'm the Young Adult Coordinator with Richmond Public Library, and I'm here on day 96 with our 100 Days Books, Places, and Readers, which is a program designed to celebrate PBS's Great American Read. Voting for that actually ends on October 18th, so if you haven't voted yet, get out there and vote or vote again. And then the finale with America's Favorite Book will be announced on October 26th. So today I'm at the Old Stone House in Forest Hill Park in the south side of Richmond. This is a very historic house. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and I thought it might be a good bookend to the book that I'm presenting today, which is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, just because this is more of a near future setting in our book. And I've also brought with me today a guest. This is my dog June. My husband and I recently rescued her. And although she came with the name June, it's kind of fitting for today because many readers believe that June is the name of the main character in the book The Handmaid's Tale, although Atwood never specifically says that. And if you've watched the Hulu series, June is the name of the main character there. But our June, like the June in the story, is bred basically for what's a higher class. She was a product of a backyard breeder, but now lives the good life, so we're happy to have her here too. So just to give you a little background on Margaret Atwood, the author of our book, she's a Canadian author and poet. She has written over 40 books of fiction, poetry, and critical essays, and she's a really prolific writer who's won a plethora of awards. Some of her books or themes from her books focus on the power of language, gender and identity, religion and myth, climate change, and power politics, which a lot of that is found in The Handmaid's Tale, which is a dystopian novel, sort of speculative fiction, you could say. It was originally published in 1985, but still remains pertinent to today, especially today. As I mentioned, it's set in the near future of New England in the United States in what's called the Republic of Gilead. And in the story, the United States government has been overthrown, and in its place, a totalitarian state has taken charge, which is based on sort of a divine law, so it's driven by religion. Also important to know about this story is that air and land pollution have grown exponentially, and because of this, the people of Gilead are suffering a decline in birth rates and increase in infertility. To counter that, they've created this order, this social order, in particular with the handmaids, who are basically there to give birth to the children of the commanders and their wives, or the higher class in Gilead. You know what? We're just going to keep going. All right. So, and as a result, women's rights have been abolished, gay rights have been abolished, and ultimately human rights have been abolished in this story. So this book focuses on the life of Offred, her name literally means of Fred. Fred is her commander. And again, her sole purpose is to produce children for this population. And I'm going to read sort of a short-ish portion of the book. And basically, June, throughout the story, or Offred, excuse me, is sort of reflecting back on the times before Gilead, and then part of the book takes place during Gilead. And this is her reflecting back to her early years as an adult. And she's talking about some of the early jobs that most people do when they're young, and then as she's moving forward in her profession. And it says, I got a better apartment after that, where I lived for 2 years. For the 2 years it took Luke to pry himself loose. I paid for it myself with my new job. It was in a library. Not the big one with Death and Victory, a smaller one. I worked transferring books to computer disks to cut down on storage space and replacement costs, they said. Diskers, we called ourselves. We called the library a discotheque, which was a joke of ours. After the books were transferred, they were supposed to go to the shredder, but sometimes I took them home with me. I liked the feel of them and the look. Luke said I had the mind of an antiquarian. He liked that. He liked old things himself. It's strange now to think about having a job. It's a funny word. It's a job for a man. Do a jobby, they'd say to children when they were being toilet trained, or of dogs. He did a job on the carpet. You were supposed to hit them with rolled up newspapers, my mother said. I can remember when there were newspapers, though I never had a dog, only cats. The book of Job. All of those women having jobs. Hard to imagine now, but thousands of them had jobs. Millions. It was considered the normal thing. Now it's like remembering the paper money when they still had that. My mother kept some of it pasted into her scrapbook along with early photos. It was obsolete by then. You couldn't buy anything with it. Pieces of paper, thickish, greasy to the touch, green colored, with pictures on each side, some old man in a wig, and on the other side a pyramid with an eye above it. It said, "In God we trust." My mother said people used to have signs beside their cash registers for a joke. "In God we trust, all others pay cash." That would be blasphemy now. You had to take those pieces of paper with you when you went shopping, though by the time I was 9 or 10, most people used plastic cards. Not for the groceries, though. That came later. It seemed so primitive, totemistic even, like cowrie shells. I must have used that kind of money myself a little before everything went to CompuBank. I guess that's how they were able to do it, in the way that they did, all at once, without anyone knowing beforehand. If there had still been portable money, it would have been more difficult. It was after the catastrophe, when they shot the president and machine-gunned the Congress, and the army declared a state of emergency. They blamed it on the Islamic fanatics at the time. "Keep calm," they said on television. "Everything is under control." I was stunned. Everyone was. I know that. It was hard to believe. The entire government gone like that. How did they get in? How did it happen? That was when they suspended the Constitution. They said it would be temporary. There wasn't even any rioting in the streets. People stayed home at night, watching television, looking for some direction. There wasn't even an enemy you could put your finger on. "Look out," said Moira to me over the phone. "Here it comes." "Here what comes?" I said. "You wait," she said. "They've been building up to this. It's you and me up against the wall, baby." She was quoting an expression of my mother's, but she wasn't intending it to be funny. So I picked this selection in the book. There's so many powerful themes and messages in The Handmaid's Tale that it was hard to really narrow it down to one important one to talk about. But one that really stands out to me is that how it's not really one big dramatic change in society that changes everything. It's something that happens discreetly over long periods of time, and small losses of civil liberties that lead up to that big change. And people don't realize it until it's already happened. Earlier in the novel, Atwood writes, "Nothing changes instantaneously. A gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it." So for me, this is a really, truly scary thing to think about. There are several echoes of history throughout this book, things that we've already seen happen around the world. For instance, a dominant religion moving to seize control of other denominations, annihilating other denominations such as the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks, Catholics, Protestants. There's been wars over this before. The genocide in the story is reminiscent of the Holocaust. The enslavement of one group to build up another has deep roots in our own American history, especially for our African American population. And today, too, we find ourselves in a very divisive climate where hate and fear are powerful motivators. With that, though, we also have found voice for advocacy and social justice. And as a teen librarian, this is something that's really important to my job, helping teens to find their voice. I feel that by reading books such as The Handmaid's Tale that discuss these topics, that force readers to question their realities and their beliefs, gives us an opportunity to take a close look at our society around us. And most importantly, readers have an opportunity to speak out for their rights and the rights of others, because remaining silent or allowing yourself to be silenced is the first increase in the degree that is soon to be a boiling bathtub. So just in closing, if you have not read The Handmaid's Tale, I definitely encourage you to do that. I actually reread it in preparation for today and loved it every bit as much rereading it. I think I pick up I picked up on a bunch of other new things that I didn't pick up on the first time. So it's a really powerful book. I think no matter how you feel about it, you'll leave with some really strong emotions, and hopefully it will lead to some really great discussions with you and your peers. So thank you.